Now at this point our app is looking pretty cool. We've got this awesome table view. We can click on each cell. We can go to a detail view controller where we have the title, we have the overview, and a big image view. But at the moment, this detail view controller is a little lackluster. It's not very interactive. So for this video, we're going to introduce something called a scroll view and apply it to our detail view controller to make it a little more fun and interactive. What I'd like is for us to be able to see the full poster image view, but then scroll up to reveal the title and overview. Let's get started by adding a scroll view to our detail view controller. I'll go over here to the object library and search UI scroll view. I'm not going to drag my scroll view directly onto my view controller because there are some other views on here already, and I want to make sure that I put my scroll view at the specific place that I'm intending. Often the best way to do that is to go over here to the document outline. Now, if you've used Photoshop or any programs like this, you can think of this over here as sort of like your layers view, only reversed for Photoshop. As far as the Z-axis is confirmed, or the move forward or move to back axis, the lower something is, the more forward it is on our view controller. So since I'm going to eventually put everything in this scroll view, I want this to be right here as a child of the main view. Now I can select the scroll view and I can drag it so that it fills the entire screen. Now back in the document outline over here, we can see that the poster image view is just in front of the scroll view, but it's not actually in it. If I wanted it to be in the scroll view, I can drag it here until this little blue line kind of goes to the right. Okay, see there? Here, it's in front. There, now it's in. And I also want this view that holds my overview label and title to be in the scroll view and in front of the poster view. So I'll drag it right here. Now, often this is going to kind of mess up the positioning you had, so you may have to rearrange things. Now, in this example, I want this view that holds my title and overview to be below my image view in the y-axis. So I could drag it down here or use my up and down arrows in order to move that. Another way is I can click on my image view. Another way to do that is to click on my poster image view and then go to the size inspector. That's this ruler here. And I notice my image view is 568 for its height. So if I go to my view that contains my title and overview and click on the size inspector, I can go to its Y value here and set that to 568. Now we can't see it anymore, but that's because it's just off the screen here, starting at a Y value of 568. Okay, well, we now have our poster image view and our view inside our scroll view. So let's run our app and see if something magically happens. Okay, it looks like it should at first, but I can't scroll. In order to get the scroll view to scroll, we're going to need to do a little initial setup and then set something called the content size. Let's go back to the details view controller and talk more about that. Since we'll need to be able to talk to our scroll view, we'll need to create an outlet for it. I'm going to go to the document outline where the scroll view is, click on it, and control drag to create an outlet. Now, I need to tell the scroll view how big the content within it actually is. This is called the content size. Now, the scroll view frame in this case is going to be the size of our screen. But the content, as we know because we moved it down there, actually extends down below that. So the scroll view needs to know what the content size is to figure out how much it should scroll up or down. We'll set the content size inside the view did load. We can say scroll view dot content size and then set it to a CG size. The width of the content is the same width as the frame. So we can set the width to scroll view dot frame dot size dot width. Now sometimes it can be kind of tricky thinking about how you'll set the height. Now remember, the height we want to be all the way down to the very bottom of the view, which we moved below our image view. So what I'd like to do is reference just how far that view is down in the Y direction. So in order to reference that in code, I'll need to make an outlet from that view. Now, even though the view is below the screen and I can't click on it in the storyboard area, it's still easily accessible in the document outline. So if I drag from view, control, drag to create an outlet, and I'll call this something like info view. Now I can reference it back here for my height. In order to see how far it is down, I can say info view dot frame dot origin dot y. If you remember, that's 568 because that's how far we set it to be down in order to be below the image view. In order to tell the scroll view that we want it to go now to the bottom of that view, I'll simply add the height of that view. Info view dot frame dot size dot height. Let's run our app again and see if we're scrolling. All right, we can now scroll our scroll view. Let's talk a little bit more about the options we have for image views to make sure our poster view displays just like we want it to. I'm going to go ahead and click on my poster image view here in the document outline, and then go to the attributes inspector here, the DJ slider, in order to see what kind of options we have for it. Let's look at this property called mode. This controls how the image is rendered within your image view. The setting it's currently on to scale to fill might stretch our image and make it look weird. Let's try aspect fit. You can see aspect fit preserves the original aspect, but that leaves some space here, which we may not want. Let's try aspect fill. As you can see, aspect fill fills the entire frame of the image view while maintaining that aspect. Now, of course, in order to do that, it's going to have to do some cropping. So keep that in mind when you're using aspect fill. I'm not super happy about how this is so low. I'd like it to start up here right below Star Wars. I'm going to click on Info View here and actually go to the Size Inspector and move its Y coordinate back up just so we can edit that label. I'm going to click on the label here, and instead I'm going to make it just this big. One quick key that you'll want to remember is for automatically resizing labels. I'll use Command equals, and that will make the label the exact size that it uses to fit the text. Now, in this case, I'm actually going to put the label over here and stretch this all the way to the right. Let's see what happens when we run our app now. Okay, we're back to that truncating thing again. But wait, I thought we set the lines to 0 where it should use as many as possible. Well, it'll only use as many lines as it can fit in the space that you've allocated for that text view. So for instance, remember our text view used to be really big, and now we made it so it's just thin. In order to make our text view grow with the size of our text, we can use a special method called size to fit. So back in our detail view controller, after we've already set the text, we'll run our size to fit method on our label. Let's run our app now. Awesome. Now our label still starts up where we want it to, but expands downward in order to fit all our text. Now just an FYI, our size to fit method will go out the window next week when we start auto layout. But when working in a non-auto layout world, it can be a very helpful method. Let's go ahead and move our view back down to where it's supposed to be. I'll click on the view here, and we'll go to the size inspector and set the Y to 568, which is the bottom of the screen and the bottom of the image view, because that's where we set it to. Run our app again. Cool, our app's looking great. Let's do a quick recap of what we've learned. First, we talked about scroll views. Scroll views are actually the dumber parent of table views and allow us to do just what you'd expect, scroll things up or down on the screen. They can contain image views or other views and can be very helpful like we use them in the detail view controller. We then talked about adjusting the image view content mode settings. The modes we looked at were scale to fit, where the object will be stretched to fit its bounds, aspect fit, in where the aspect is maintained and the image is sized so that it all fits within the bounds. And finally, we looked at aspect fill, which maintains the aspect, but then scales the image and inevitably crops in order to fill the entire bounds of the image view. To apply the scroll effect to our app, we needed to do a couple things. First, we added a scroll view to our detail view controller. In order to get it in the right place, we actually added it within the document outline. Next, we created an outlet for the scroll view by control dragging from the document outline. Then we set the content size of the scroll view. That way the scroll view knew how much it should scroll up or down. In our case, we actually referenced objects that we had within the scroll view and their height to set the content size. We also introduced a data type called the CG size, which takes a width and a height. I hope you enjoyed this video, and in our next video, we'll take our app to the next level by adding tabs.